Okay, so we let this fire burn down for a little bit, and as you can see, we essentially removed one of the 3 triangles because the fire wasn't hot enough for the bulk fuel yet. Now, for training purposes, I let it burn down to show you how to properly put out a fire. This is where our shovel is going to come in handy. I'm just going to get out of the smoke here. So you're going to let it burn down to white ash. You're going to rake it around. So if that was heavier fuel, you're going to want to plan to extinguish your fire. Make a plan for it, okay? One other note, in the cadet program, it tells you the wood doesn't necessarily have to be dead or dry once you hit the bulk fuel stage. Try to get dead, dry fuel still, because it smokes a lot more, you lose a lot more heat, a lot more of the fire's energy is burned and used up by drying the wood before it will actually burn up. So we're going to rake everything in, let it start to burn down. As you can see, it's down to pretty fine, other than that one big log, the wedge piece we had. So what we should have done there, if we were going to keep this going, we would have kept adding and adding and adding our fuel, gradually increasing in size, and then we could have added our bulk fuel. We didn't want to get to that point today though. So as you can see, it's chopped down to white ash. Okay, and we plan that out, right? You're going to take your water. If you have to get more water, do so. Do not leave a fire in an unsafe state. We're going to pour about half the water on. So look at all the water I poured on there, but we still have smoke coming in from underneath. One other thing, when you're putting your rocks together, make sure there's no gaps in them or anything like that. It's not totally waterproof, as you can see, sorry, but there's no way fire could have come out from that. Okay, we're going to take our shovel and we're going to mix this mess up. Okay, make sure it's good and mixed up. We got a mucky mess here, and guess which section that, so with your muck you're reducing your oxygen, and with your water you're removing your heat. So one other thing to watch for with the rocks is you want to make sure they're cooled off too before you leave. Remember how we talked about how they could retain heat? Well, they could ignite a fire after too. Now luckily we've cleared everything away, so I only use a little bit of water that first time. Gonna pour some more in there. I like to scrape down into the ground. So we can start putting out, maybe there are some roots underneath here. You're worried about maybe igniting them. So spruce roots, if you're up in the northern boreal forest, they can actually act as a slow burning fuse. So if you're digging a pit, or what you should anyways, make sure you're digging down a little bit and chopping off any roots. Grab them and pull them back away from your fire pit, okay? Or else those can catch on fire and they will actually keep slow burning for days after. So we're mucking it up again. I can put my hand right over top of it and not feel any heat. The rocks are a little warm, but not hot enough they're going to start a fire. You have to remember, one survival technique is you can actually heat rocks up in the fire, drop them in a bucket full of water or a container full of water. Birch bark actually worked really well, old indigenous trick, and that's how they boiled water and heated water. They would have baskets woven to hold water. They would heat up rocks using sticks, pick them up and put them in, and you can actually boil water that way. If it's hot enough to boil water, it's hot enough it can start a fire. Okay, so once again, we're just gonna double check, make sure everything is out. Okay, same thing, I'm gonna hold my hand over. There's no heat source whatsoever. Okay, even this rock face, I'd be trying to cool it off. I'm not gonna worry as much about this big rock starting a fire because it's got so much surface area to dissipate. Okay, so just remember to plan out your site. Think about what you're doing. A lot of this is common sense. Remember your different types of tinder, your fuels, how to build a rock ring, and we'll cover different types of fires later on. Like I said, it's a hybrid of a teepee and a log cabin. So a log cabin would actually be, I'll just bring this in place here. They call this a log cabin. You would lay 2 logs down like this. You'd have your tinder source, you'd have your tinder bundle in here, and you would obviously be using your smaller wood. So there's another way to take a big log to a small log. And then you would start laying it the opposite way, making sure you're leaving air gaps so I can keep getting. Can anyone guess why it's called a log cabin? And then you would light your tinder bundle. It burns up and hot in a hurry. It's actually a really good way of boiling water. If you ever sit there and watch some of the mountain man competitions, what they'll do is they'll actually make this log cabin around a kettle or a billy can, and the name of the competition there is to get your pot of water to boil the fastest. They're out there with axes at high speed, things you guys can't do, but they will build this log cabin around the pot and build it up and light it and watch it go. Okay, then the other style that the cadets program teaches, it's actually called the pyramid fire. And what that is, it's tightly packed and you build it up so it's an actual pyramid. You don't have the log cabin style. You're going to be stacking them, alternating. You're going to build them up and it's going to be shaped like a pyramid, whereas this type of fire is going to be a square. That's going to be a pyramid, and you light your fire on top of it, and it's a low maintenance fire because as the coals get hot, it just burns down. It burns downwards, which is straight. Flames burn up, but the coals keep working their way down into more and more fuel. So it's a good overnight fire, low maintenance. So if you're building, obviously have a fire watch, someone watching it hopefully. But one other thing, it's going to be throwing your fire straight up. There's other kinds of fires we will go through at a later date, a Siberian log fire, a long fire. There's a lot of different kinds we can do. We'll do a different lesson on those. But for now, you're going to have to know the teepee lay. So the teepee lay is just, you have your tinder bundle and you start piling up branches on it like that. Okay? Yeah, I prefer this because I find a lot of people try to use the teepee lay, and as soon as they light it or bump it, all the fuel falls in and wipes their fire out. The kindling falls in and wipes the fire out because the fire wasn't well enough established. It just takes a gentle bump. That's why I prefer so even with this backdrop, I could have put my sticks even up against the rock, but that's what I prefer. I find it works best. It's never let me down. So you're going to have your teepee, you're going to have your log cabin style, and you're going to have your pyramid style. Those are the 3 that I'm required to teach you. We'll do a later lesson on a few different styles for specialized fire for specialized purposes. Okay, so at a later date we will cover those. But that's all I have for now. Hopefully you guys enjoyed your lesson.